So we are going to look at a laser called as quantum cascade laser. Okay, this is a very recent laser which was invented in 90s, and it is a very famous one. It has a lot of applications, and the concept of lasing has a totally different meaning in this one. The main advantage of this quantum cascade laser is you will get a wide range of wavelength. And you will get a wavelength of the range from 3 micrometer to 300 micrometer. Okay, so that's a very wide range. And you don't, so normally when you want to have a different range of wavelength, you need to have a different band gap. Different band gap means you need to have a different material. Okay, because band gap is fixed for any particular semiconductor material. And if you want to have a different wavelength, you need to go for a different material. But in this quantum cascade laser, you can have a different wavelength using the same material. Okay, and it is based on the principle of recycling of electrons. What do you mean by recycling? So in our normal case, if you want to have some stimulated emission, in our normal scenario, then you need to have an electron hole pair combination. Means electron from conduction band go to the valence band and combine with a hole. Okay, so in this case, the electron is actually lost because you are combining with the hole and gets neutralized. Okay, but in the case of a quantum cascade laser, as a QCL, then the same electron can be used to generate photons again and again. So that is why it is called as a recycling of electrons. Okay, so basically there is no electron hole pair recombination. The same, we are using the electrons in the conduction band to generate photons by simulated emission. Okay, and this quantum well lasers, in which you are, the transition of the electron is not between conduction band and valence band, but it is a intra band transition or intra subband transition. What do we mean by that? It means that, see, if you have a conduction band like this, you know that there are a lot of energy states. Okay. Okay. So you have energy state at the bottom of the conduction band, and that can be energy state at the very top of the conduction band. And the photon is released when the electron jumps from this high energy state to low energy state within the conduction band. So these are called as subbands. Okay, so the jumping of electrons is within this subband. And see, for lasing action, it doesn't need to, the electron or the hole or whatever charge carries, it doesn't need to always jump from conduction band to valence band. It only needs to jump from a high energy state to a very low energy state. If that is possible uh, by incidenting a photon, which results in giving out one new extra photon, then that is fine. It need not be conduction band or valence band. So this is a simple conduction band. Okay, similarly, you can have a valence band in which the photon can jump from high energy state to low energy state. Okay, and so this is the basics principle of the quantum cascade laser. Okay, and this is happened. So this transition, but it's an intra subband transition in a repeated stack of multiple quantum well heterostructures. Okay, so you have multiple quantum well, and the electrons will fall from high energy to low energy in this multiple quantum well within a particular conduction band. Okay, so maybe I'll draw a diagram. Maybe that will make you understand. So let's say you have a semiconductor in which you are given some amount of injection current, threshold current, where you inject the charge carrier so that there will be population inversion. Okay, so assume that the quantum, and you also know that the band structure, which was like, so normal quantum well structure is like this. Okay, we are considering only the conduction band. We are not considering the valence band. Okay, so this is the conduction band. This is a normal quantum well structure without giving potential. Okay, now when you apply this potential, we all know that the energy band, this is basically the energy band diagram, the energy band will tilt. Okay, so it might tilt like this. Fine. Now we know that there are energy levels inside this quantum well structure. Okay, so there's energy level here, there's energy level here. Similarly, in each of this quantum well, there are multiple energy states, and this will be discrete. And we also know that if the quantum well is have a width of very less width, then the energy state will have a longer gap, or the energy state will be highly discretized. Okay, so if I draw the energy state now, okay, then you can draw it something like this. Okay, so this is the different energy levels in the quantum well structure. It should be straight. I couldn't draw it straight. Okay, now the electron in this energy state in this particular well, there's an electron here. Okay, can jump from this state to this state the same well. Okay, so there is a single, so using some kind of uh, stimulated emission, you can make the electron jump from high energy level in the same quantum well to low energy level. Okay, now once the electron reaches, so this is the same energy state, and it can jump from this energy state to the quantum well of another energy state, again with another simulated emission. Okay, so this will give you a photon, or this will basically gives you a lacing action. Okay, and this electron can jump from this energy state to this energy state in the same quantum well. Okay, and again this energy state an electron can jump from this energy state. Okay, so the same electron, when it jumps from different energy states in the same quantum well, when it is applied a high potential, the same structure with it can jump from different quantum wells. Basically, it is tunneling across the quantum wells. Okay, now I have shown the quantum wells of high width. Okay, ideally in this scenario where you need to have a tunneling structure, the quantum well width will be very small, so it will be something like this. is something like this. Okay, there will be a very small width of quantum well, and when the width is slow, we know that you will have the energy bands at a higher gap. So we have seen this in the last class actually. So low quantum well width means you have discrete energy levels. Okay, and there will be a high energy gap. Okay, so we are not going into the like very into the details of this structure. We are just trying to understand what how the tunneling is happening. That's all. Okay, so if you draw the electron movement, then you can see that this electron can fall from high energy level to low energy level, and it can tunnel through this, and it can go to the next higher energy level. Now when a voltage is applied, this will get tilted, because of which it can move to the high energy level in the next quantum well. Okay, so that's how you can have a quantum well of structure in which the electron movement, the same electron which can be moved across different quantum wells, can be reused to find a stimulated emission. So if you want to have a electron to move to a high energy level, you can always or electron at a high energy level to move to come down to low energy level, you need to if you give a stimulated photon to stimulate the electron to come down, then it will produce a new photon which will resulted in a lacing action. And then you confine this in a structure that we have already seen, that you can create the core, cladding, and guided layers, and the confinement layer, the substrate, etc. And then if you put it in a bulk material, then finally you will have some kind of a laser beam which is coming out of the structure. Okay. So the important part here is the thickness of the quantum well is the one which will determine the wavelength. Okay, so I have already told in the starting of the lecture that you can attain different wavelengths without changing the material. Okay, the reason is being, by changing the thickness of this quantum well, the energy cap can be changed, which in turn will give you different wavelengths. Okay, so what I was saying is, by changing the width of quantum well, the energy gap can be changed, and different wavelength can be produced. So here we are not changing the material. We are just changing the band gap, changing the band gap, or changing the difference of energy between inside the quantum well by changing the width of the quantum well. Okay, so the position of the subband is actually determined by the width of the or the thickness of the quantum well. Okay, so within this same material, it is possible to have different wavelengths. So let me write it down again. So implies using the same material, it is possible to have different wavelengths. Okay. And the single most advantage of this is it has high quantum efficiency. So usually the quantum efficiency is less than one, but it can have more than one because there is no electron hole pair recombination. Okay, so it can have a value less than one, but it can also have a value greater than one. And this quantum high quantum efficiency is the reason why it is very most popular laser, in which you can with a very less amount of power you will be able to produce a high amount of laser beam. Okay, fine. So I think that this will complete our module. So basically, mostly it is regarding laser. So make sure you know the laser basics well. And then I think the different types of lasers are very easy if you know the laser version well. Okay. And I think now let's move on to some problems. So the problems that have been asked in the semester exams are mostly related to the modes of the lasers. So let me try to give you one problem which is asked in, let me see which question paper. So this is asked in December 2018 question paper. So if you want to write it down, you can write it down. Anyway, I'll upload this question paper in the classroom. Okay, so this is asked in December 2018 question paper. So the question is like this. The longitudinal modes, sorry, modes of indium phosphide injection laser emitting at a wavelength of 940 meter are separated by 300 gigahertz. Determine the length of the optical cavity and the number of longitudinal modes emitted, the refractive index of indium phosphide is 3.3. Okay, so this is the question. And actually regarding the longitudinal modes, we have actually two equations, and the equations are like this. M lambda is equal to 2 nrl, that is one equation. The second equation is the delta nu is equal to C by 2 nrl. Okay, fine. So these are two equations we have. It's a very simple equation, but we need to find out what are the parameters that is given in this question. Okay, so the parameters are the wavelength, okay, nu, or separated by 300 gigahertz. Okay, so delta nu is actually 300 gigahertz. Okay, and it is also given the value of refractive index, which is 3.3, which means my NR is equal to 3.3. Okay. So from this equation, you want to find the length of the optical cavity, which is L. So L is that one which you want to find. So to find L, the answer is simple because you substitute the value of nu, which is 300 gigahertz, substitute value for C, which is 3 into 10 raised to 8 meter per second, NR is 3.3. Okay, so the value of L, I can write the equation in terms of C by 2 NR delta nu, that is 3 into 10 raised to 8 by 2 into 3.3 into 300 into 10 raised to 9. Okay, so that will give you the length of the optical cavity. Can somebody tell me what will be this value? Anybody? So thing here you want to understand is the different modes have a separation. So mode means that at any particular lambda, so there is a lambda 1, lambda 2, etc., in which you will be having some amount of gain. Okay, so lambda 2 minus lambda 1 is the separation. Corresponding to lambda, there is a frequency implies nu 2 minus nu 1 is the separation. And nu 2 minus nu 1 is given by delta nu, which is C by 2 NR L. Okay. ആർക്കെങ്കിലും കിട്ടിയോ ആൻസർ? Yeah, I think it is around 1.5 into 10 raised to minus 4. Fine. So that should be this much meter. This should be the length of the cavity. Okay. So let me do one more problem. It's a bit different, but I think I'll do that just to make understand. Okay. So this was problem number 1, and this is the answer. And let's look at question number 2. The question is like, find out the total number of longitudinal modes and frequency spacing between the modes of an aluminum gallium arsenide laser supported by the gain spectrum, which has a bandwidth of 600 gigahertz. The laser has a cavity length of 200 micrometer and the emission wavelength is 800 nanometer. In bracket, assume NR is equal to 3.6. This question is a bit different. It's not exactly same as other. Here you are asked to find the number of longitudinal modes. Okay. So if so this is the total number of longitudinal modes and the frequency spacing, obviously, right? So how will you find the total number of longitudinal modes? For that, they have given the bandwidth. Okay. So if you remember this diagram, these are the different modes. Okay, this is new. So this is the basically the bandwidth. And this is given as 600 gigahertz. Okay, fine. And this spacing is delta nu. Okay. So if you want to find the number of longitudinal modes, then you just need to find, so the number of, or let me write it properly. So the number of longitudinal modes is, you can write approximately is equal to the bandwidth divided by delta nu. Okay. Now this can be an integer or not an integer. If it's not an integer, approximate it to negative infinity. Like for example, if you get a value like 6.3, this should be 6. If it is like 6.9, again this should be 6. So you need to approximate it. Okay, because the number of longitudinal modes is an integer. Okay, so before that we need to find delta nu. Okay, for finding delta nu, we know the equation delta nu is equal to C by 2nrl. And from the question, the length of the cavity L is equal to 200 micrometer. Okay, and the next thing is you want to find NR, which is 3.6. So NR is equal to 3.6. So your delta nu is equal to 3 into 10 raised to 8 divided by 2 into 3.6 into 200 into 10 raised to minus 6. Okay, can you somebody calculate me and tell me the answer? What is delta nu? Yeah, it will be something around 2 into 10 raised to 11. Okay, now, so you want to find the number of longitudinal modes, that is 600 into 10 raised to 9 divided by 2 into 10 raised to 11. Okay, so this is 6 into 10 raised to 11 divided by 2 into 10 raised to 11. That is approximately, there are 3 modes. Okay, so if this have been like, let's say this is like this is just for an example, it's not the actual answer. Let's say this is approximately like 2.8 into 10 raised to 11. Okay, if, let me write in a different pen, otherwise you'll be confused. Okay, so assume that let delta nu is equal to 2.5 into 10 raised to 11. So implies the number of modes is 6 by 2.5 to 10 raised to 11. Now this quantity is not a integer. Okay, so this will be something around 2 point something, 2.4 or something like that. Okay, so the number of modes should be then equal to 2, because you cannot have a non-integer number of modes. So the number of modes should be equal to 2. Okay, so this is how you do the problem. And so this problem, the first problem came for 10 marks, and the second problem came for 8 marks. So it is, you know, that it is easy to score marks in the problems in this subject. So make sure you attempt the problems. It's not very tough. It's very easy. Okay, and so this will like, and also I think there are one or two problems will be coming in the exam, the total subject. Fine. Okay, so I will upload the question papers in the Google Classroom so that you can also look at these problems, and also make sure you look at the other questions of the module that we have taught, module 1 and module 2. There are many other questions in the question paper. So uh, your internal exams will be based on those questions. So if you know that questions properly, then um, I think the internal exam will be very easy. And also have a look at the our lecture notes and lecture videos, so that you will also have the understanding of the rest of the parts. I think our exam is at the last or something, so you have enough time. So the portions will be till whatever is taught today. Okay, there's a small portion called modulation of lasers. I think that we will do when we do optical modulation. Okay, devices. Fine. Okay, so I think you can mark your attendance, and I think we'll call it a day, and we'll meet on Monday. Okay, thank you.